Welcome back in another episode of Building ERP System using C#, SQL, and Angular. Reminding the goal from this series is to understand the domain of ERP, including the terminologies, how to implement them by coding, to learn new coding practices for the real life, how we can code for real life applications and projects, and using the best practices for that, to learn various technologies, tools, design, architectures, and practices while coding. So the foreseen application is going to include accounting management, which is the start point, sales management, procurement management, expenses management, finance management, fixed assets management, HR, and payroll management production. For those who don't know, the accounting is the core of any business. It's actually to generate some financial reports that's needed for regulations and for analyzing the company financials and performance. The sales management is the workflows for sales, starting from the quotations, received purchase orders, invoicing, and so on. The customers management as well, also part of the sales management. The procurement management is the opposite of sales management. This time we are the customer and we make some agreements with our suppliers, or we receive quotations, compare them, and place some purchase orders based on that, receive invoices and pay our suppliers. The procurement management doesn't include the expenses management. The expenses management is about the operational and non-operational expenses of the company. Operational expenses if we are doing some services that going to affect the cost of services, and non-operational services are the other the non-operational expenses are the other expenses. The finance management about managing our bank resources, like cash resources, making payments, making collections, and so on. The fixed assets management is about how we manage our long-term assets, including the furniture, including vehicles, including buildings. How we amortize and depreciate these assets and convert them to costs, and so on. HR about how we grow with our human resources, the company's human resources, and the payroll, how about managing and generating the salaries of our employees. Production, it's going to include the MRP, which is material resources planning, and the MRP2, which is manufacturing resources planning. These about operations, about planning and operating the production processes. So in this video we are going to start with the accounting, and the start point with that as well is the chart of account. The chart of account is the core thing of accounts. It's set of accounts that categorize our financials, our records, and support generating the financial reports. We are going to see that. We already explained that in the previous videos in some details. We are going to execute some statements to including creating this chart of account and seeding it, execute some SQL statement to create the journal entries. The journal entries are double entries related to commercial transactions. For example, when we are paying our supplier, that mean assume that we paid like £10. These £10 will have double entry in the accounting. One entry is the debit and one entry is the credit. When we pay our supplier, we debit his account, the supplier's account, which is liabilities, and we credit our account, our cash account, if we paid by cash, or we credit our bank account if it is paid by bank, and both are assets. So payment equal to debiting the supplier and crediting our account. So the next step is going to make some double entries for these transactions like sales, payment, and so on. We are going to generate trial balance, which is one of the middle reports that we use in accounting, and we are going to generate the income statement for the sample transactions we have made, and then we are going to start with creating the REST API using C Sharp. We are going to start with the endpoint of chart of accounts and journal entries. This is going to grow in the future. This journal entry is going to be created by received events. If when we are going to implement some microservice, we are not going to start today with microservices. However, in the future, we are going to make or we are going to generate a platform that's going to exchange some events and commands by messaging, and it's going to be we are going to deploy it on Kubernetes cluster. The plan is to use also various databases that depend on each microservice. The microservices are going to be like this. Each microservice possibly is based on the goal of the microservice. We are going to use possibly a relational database or non-relational database. We are going to try to use different databases to learn more about databases like Postgres, like SQL, Microsoft SQL server, like NoSQL databases like MongoDB, and other ones. We are going to learn also about some cloud stuff like Amazon S3 possibly, or the alternative for the local development can be Minayo. We are going to learn some Docker, using some Docker and so on. So all these are going to come step by step, but the first point today is to create the SQL statements and the basic REST API for the endpoints of chart of accounts and journal entries, so we can use them to generate the first report. We are not going to use ORMs like Entity Framework uh, or let's say Dapper Micro ORM or any other ones. We are going to use native SQL statements, and in the future we can enhance them. We can use any of the ORMs, but not at this stage, possibly to learn some about ADO.NET and so on. All these going to come step by step. If you feel if you feel you are interested in this series, please subscribe and hit the notification bell button and like, share, make comments. That will motivate me to complete the series and continue in generating this. If you don't know about me, I have a master in finance. I'm a senior software developer for more than 20 years now. I have worked for financial technologies for more than 15 years. I work for various industries, including the financial technology. So the financial technology was the most one I liked and worked for. Yeah, so let's start. I'm going first to create the database. I select the statement and then press execute or F5. Now the database should be created. If I refresh my databases, I can find it here. Currently, the context is the master. I'm going to say start using Light ERP, which is this database. So all the next statements going to be executed against this database. As you can see, I have no tables at the moment. I'm going to create my first table, which is the chart of account. It's going to include 4 columns. The first field is the ID, which is it's going to be GUID. The reason from using this GUID, why I selected it varchar, because I'm going to convert it from GUID to another type in the future, but because the GUID actually it can result also some fragmented database. But I'm going to use possibly something similar to GUID, but more ordered. The accounting code, the code of the account itself, the name of the account, and the type. The types are usually 5 types, which are assets. I'm going to use 1 for the assets, 2 for liabilities, 3 for equity, 4 for income statement or revenue, and 5 for expenses. So let's create the table. Great. Let's see if the table is created by selecting Great, it's empty now. I'm going to seed the table. First, I'm going to seed the assets chart of account. In the previous videos, you can find more details about the chart of accounts. So this is a statement to SQL statement to seed the assets. Going to do the same. By the way, this chart of account is sample. It can be different from country to another country, from a company to another company. It can be detailed more. It can be summarized more. It depends on the needs and how the finance department or the accountant of the company is decided to be. The equity account, the revenue accounts, and finally the expenses. So now let's select again and see what we have. Perfect. It's showing us that we have all these accounts are inserted with ID, code, name, and account type. We are going to use, we saw already how we use the insert. We are going to use some other data manipulation statements like the update. For example, here you can see that the last one is loss on sales and assets. I'm going to make it loss of sales and assets. So it's update the chart of accounts, set the account X and this and that using where the code is this one. Let me execute it. So now it should be off this one. If I see here, if I select the accounts again, I'm going to see that became off, not on sale. I'm going to delete this account, the last one I updated it. All these SQL statements are going to be used in our endpoint. Here I can see it is deleted. I'm going to insert it again, but this time again on cell. I select again to see if it came or not. I can see it's here again, but with different ID because this is generated automatically. Now this is the chart of accounts. I'm going to create the journal entries table. It's going to have the entry ID. This entry ID will be the connection point between the commercial transactions and the accounting transactions. This will be needed when we post automatically. For example, when we receive an invoice and we record it in the sales management as a transactions, possibly the sales management, based on the design, going to send an event which is called invoice created event, and the accounting going to receive this event and create this double entry records in the journal entries related to the received invoice. So the connection point will be the entry ID, and possibly the commercial ID also can be added in the future. We will see this. So this is our start point, and we can see in the future. But today we are going to work purely on accounting, like we don't have any commercial transactions system. So I'm going to create the table. Let's see the tables first of all. So now we have the chart of accounts. We are going to create another table. I refresh now the table. I can see there's journal entries. I'm going to delete all the entries if there is some entries, but I don't need them. So the first one is going to purchase. I'm going to create some transactions. The first transaction is purchasing some inventory or stock or commercial goods that we are going to sell for £50 from our supplier, but this will be on account. That means I'm not going to pay for it. I just receive it and then I should pay it to my supplier. So this will be purchased. The description will be purchase of stocks on account. It will work. It will increase the stocks or inventory, and it's going to also crediting the account of supplier, making as in liabilities against him. So the two is liabilities and the one is the assets, debiting the assets and crediting the liabilities. The second one is about selling the inventory we purchased by cash to our customer. So this will increase the cash by £80 and make revenue also increase by £80. So the revenue increase by crediting the revenue, and the cash increase by debiting the cash because it is an assets account. So the general rule is debiting the assets, increasing the assets, crediting the revenue is increasing the revenue. Same here, uh, debiting the uh, debiting the inventory, which is assets, increasing the assets, and crediting the liabilities, which is the which are our suppliers, is increasing the liabilities of the company. Here I'm calculating the cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold calculation is going to happen based on multiple costing algorithms, actually, including first in, first out, weighted average, last in, first out, moving weighted average. There's many algorithms to calculate the cost of goods sold, but here we are just going to simplify it like whatever we purchased, we sold, and the cost of sales was £50. So here we can see the purchase. We are going to purchase some expenses, to increase the expenses by debiting the expenses by £10, and also crediting the liabilities to create because it's on account, by £10. Here we are depositing cash to the bank, which is both our assets. So we are decreasing our cash account by £20 by crediting it, while increasing our uh, bank account by debiting it. So crediting the assets, meaning decreasing the assets. Debiting the assets is increasing the assets. Both are assets, so no change in assets, total assets, no change in current assets, but there is movement of cash from cash or petty cash to bank account, from 0 to 2. Finally, paying expenses, finally paying the expenses amount that we purchased by bank to our supplier. So crediting the bank account, which we just debited here, by £10, so the remaining in the bank should be £10 after deducting £10, and debiting the liabilities to decrease the liabilities or the account of our supplier. So here is how to generate the income statement. And oh, sorry, we didn't make the transactions, so let us run them. So we have some transactions. So now we have the transactions. We are going to generate the income statement. So as you can see, our income statements, we have sales £80, we have cost of goods sold £50. So the gross profit is £30, the operational expenses are £10, and the operational profit of the company is £20. 80 minus 50 equal to 30, and then 30 minus 10 is equal to 20. So let's start our C# coding. So I have started already a new project using the Web API template of Visual Studio, and as you know, it's coming with sample controller, which is the weather forecast controller, and so on. Anyways, let's start with creating the skeleton. So as said before, the future plan is to make it microservices architecture, and each domain feature is going to be in its separate service, like the accounting alone, the finance management alone, the sales alone. Each one of these are going to be microservice. I'm not going to do that now, but I'm going to follow some domain based sliced architecture, or somehow like this architecture, so in the future I can refactor it easily. So let's start with that. I'm going to create some folders for each one of the features. Let's call it L01 accounting. The reason I put the L01, or let's say the L1, to make it ordered, because the accounting will come at the beginning, but the sales will come in different sequence, or we can simply do it like this as well. So this is the accounting, this is the sales, procurement, finance, expenses, fixed assets, HR, payroll, production, sales, finance. Yeah, initially let them be like this. So under the accounting and each one of these, we are going initial to have controllers. We are going to follow some, uh, let's say, domain-centric, or yeah, because we are working under the same project at the moment, it will not be really recognized if it is domain centric or if it is layered architecture. But in the future, when we are going to refactor, we can see the dependencies in a better way. So we will have the controllers. We are going to have the service layer, or in the terminologies of domain centric, it is domain services. Repositories, stories, the services. This should be services. And we are possibly going to have some common or utilities per each domain feature. And yeah, let's see. Sure, we will have also domain models and data transfer objects. Okay, let's start with these at the moment. And the controller here, I'm going to move it to this controllers. It's asking me if it's going to adjust the namespace. I say okay. I'm removing the general one. So now we have accounting, expenses, finance, fixed assets, HR, payroll, procurement, production, and sales. And under the accounting, we have common for the common utilities, controllers, data transfer objects, models, repositories, and services. Let's start with renaming the first uh, controller. Let's call it accounts controller. So now we have the accounts controller. It's going to be here as well. Okay. Accounts controller. we will not need this stuff related to the weather. The logger, we will need it. And we will have this as I action results. Okay. So, okay. So let's start our application and see if it's working. It's building at the moment because it is the first build. It possibly will take some time. Perfect, it is working. Let's try it. Try it now. It should return 200. And yes. So it's returning 200 and all is good because there is no payload at the moment, or there is no response, so you cannot really see the benefit of what we have done yet. So let's do some documentation for this one, and before that let's decide about our methods. So we are going to have some methods and let's define them. We are going to have the CRUD for the chart of accounts, including add account, update account, get account, and delete account. So here is the verbs, the get, post, put, and delete. We can name these accordingly as well. Post account, put account, get accounts, and delete accounts. It's up to you, but you need to know the verbs of the rest, which are the get, put, post, and so the post is to add new records or entries, the put to update the whole object, the get to retrieve some objects, while the delete to delete objects. So let me name it according to what is better describing for every reader. Add account, then we will have add many accounts. The reason for the add many accounts, because sometimes we are going to have some features like possibly import the chart of accounts of the company. This is in the migration projects when you have like already accounting system and you export the accounts, the chart of accounts from a system, and you need to import it to the system. So you don't need to put them one by one to add them one by one. So you can add them all in one shot. So again, the put account is going to be update account, and we also have update many accounts, and get accounts, get all accounts, let's say, and get accounts by code, and get accounts by type possibly. So we can say bring as all the assets and so on. And possibly sometimes we need some part of the account tree, like not all the assets, only the current assets in one call. So we say get accounts by prefix. So if my assets are all one, while the current assets 1 1 and the fixed assets 1 2, if I say 1 1, it will bring me all the 1 1, all the accounts start with 1 1. And delete account, and delete many accounts by prefix possibly. Yes, that could be good practice. So let's create these methods one by one. So add account, should be we don't need the names actually, it should be just post, and this is add account, account. This XML documentation. This XML documentation is good for the developers and readers of the method, and also can be reflected to the Swagger or the Open API documentation as well, because this is going to generate the Visual Studio, going to generate documentation file, which we can use it also in the Swagger. So add account, it's going to return the ID possibly, and the link for that one. We will see that in the next ones. It was add many, right? Add many. So we update account, it should be put. Update many accounts, and we'll have get accounts, get all accounts, let's say. account by code. Get accounts by type. Get accounts by prefix. And delete account. The verb should be HTTP delete. And finally delete many accounts by prefix. Okay, so these should be enough for us. Let's start. And we received error. So let's see the logs. What we have as runtime error. Okay, so Swagger exception, conflict in method and path. So multiple ones are using the same verb, so it cannot be recognized. That means we need to care about the routes, let's say. So how we do that? So as you can see here, this is the post account and post many accounts. One of them should be, let's say we call it as many, and the other one is the put, and this put many, and get all. This should be get by code, so it will be string and code. Here we can put code and ID. Sorry, not ID. Code, and here we can make it by type. Here type and type. Here we say string type. Here we have get by free prefix, so this is going to be prefix, which is also string, so prefix. Here we have the delete. We have delete many, but sure, this delete is going to be delete by ID, so by code. So this is the code, and here we add the code, the account code, and here is going to be delete many. Many by code again, string and code. So let's start our project again. and see. Yeah, all good. So we have the post, we have the post many, we have the get, we have get by code, by type, prefix, and all is good. So let's try the get, for example, get by code. So I put any code at the moment and it return. Okay. So now next step, we need to possibly decide about the data transfer objects. The data transfer objects, which are representing the requests and the responses. So here you can see the request is simply the string. So there is nothing really we can uh, do on that, but it's good when you are using the post and the put, or retrieving some stuff, some resources from the databases, to encapsulate them and to put them in data transfer objects. These data transfer objects are going to be detailed. Each uh, each requirement of method, of controller method, should have its own data transfer objects. We are going to possibly replicate some code, but that doesn't mean it is like repeating ourselves, because the best practices for the DTOs is this one. So we are going to create two folders under the DTOs. One, let's call it requests, and when we call it responses, okay. Let's start with this one, add account. So the add account request, we call it, or Control Shift A also bring you a new item. Add account request. According to our SQL, we are going to use these fields, right? So let's put them here, so we create accordingly. So we are going to have the first field. The first field is going to be string. It is the account code. We are not going to put the account ID in data transfer object, because the user or the consumer of the API is not going to provide this ID. This is going to be generated, which is good, which is it can be in the model or the entity, but not in the data transfer object. Data transfer objects are used for the external users, like we are using them only for the requests and the responses of the controllers of the endpoint, not to use them for the entities and the database. So we're gonna have three ones like this more, okay, which are for the name and the type. The type in the database are from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are going to represent them here in their actual names. So the consumer posts the actual name, like assets, liabilities, and so on. And we are going to convert them to enum, possibly, or convert them to numbers and post them to the database. So this is our first request. first request is like this, but also we can do it as in the short way, which is public record. This is the new C# feature, public record, this one, and we put it like this. So we don't need to use a class, we can use records for the DTOs as well. So I delete this one, and this is our first request. So coming back to this one, saying add account, will accept add account request, we call it request, and there is add many. The add many is simply the add account, which is list of add account request, we call it accounts. So this is going to be like this. So now we have the one for this. It's again called request. So here, if I look here, we don't have the parameter section. If I delete this one and again generate the XML, I can see that there is the request added here. Same for this one. So update account will be the repetition of add account requests. We are not going to inherit from a base record or something, because this is the how the DTO's best practices are. We should repeat it so they can be full isolation, so for different purposes. So here we are going to rename this as update, and we rename this one as well. And I think we have update multiple as well. So update multiple will also have something like this. So update account, which is list of update. Okay, so it should be update account request update accounts request get all account. Does it have one? This is already, we have it. So now we have already added the request. Now we are going to think about the response. So each one of these, the add account response should be simply the created response with the object and the path, so they can navigate to it. For the moment we don't have it, so let's put it okay. With the add many is the same, but can also include some error, so it can return like let's say the results equal to false. So we can say if result equal to, or let's say the operation result operation result success. We are following also, if you notice here, like the names are long, but this is how is the clean coding standards. You should avoid always the comments as long as you can name your variables and methods in descriptive way that the reader uh, doesn't need the comment to understand it. So if operation result success return okay, like, or created, else return like status code uh, status codes dot possibly 500. That means some of them, because we are going to add many, so some of them can fail, so we can return some error to the user telling him that these IDs has been failed. So, and here new object with the error, let's say some error at the moment. It should be error, I believe, or new error. We will see later for that, but yeah, for the moment we can return it like this. It can return object as well. So uh, let's continue with this one. With the update are going to return the same. Need some semicolon, let's say error, or let's say serialized failure uh, ser codes. The update again is going to return no content, so it should return no content. See, no content, which is 204 code. And same here, content. Get all accounts should return okay, but it should return some response with the okay, which is going to be the responses. Let's add it. Control Shift A, let's say, and we call it account response. Only one account, and this one account should possibly return the same one which is here. No complication at the moment, but possibly in the future we will need to make some changes on that. So this is not request, this is response. This is account response. This is account response, which is similar to this one. Returning many accounts. Again, it is record, and it is the account response and returning account response. Perfect, that should be good. And yeah, that should be okay. So let's use them in the response and see what else we can do. Let's see, follow some asynchronous programming. So we need to make some change to this one, like task. If it is task, then it should be async task. And we are going to duplicate this to all of them are going to use the database. So the whole chain from the controller to the database insertion all should be asynchronous. Otherwise, no sense from the asynchronous in a method and not the other. That will be block the process. I assume you know how is the asynchronous programming work. Okay, so that should be good. Let's start our project and see. Great, all is good. So perfect. As you can see, we can see the schema telling us that this is how it's going and the response and so on. We will see that step by step. We are going to document these as well, more details. Now let's do our first endpoint from A to Z first, and then. So now we have the controller. We are going to go one step more to the service layer. So let's go to the service layer. Service layer that can deal with models and can deal with the data transfer objects. So the main responsibility of the controller is to deal with the HTTP stuff plus the validation, but it doesn't deal with the model at all. There's some arguments about if the controller should be able to do mapping and so on, but the best practice is to, at least in the point of view of many of developers, the mapping should be in the service layer. Mapping can be done by automapper library, or those who don't prefer it, which I don't prefer generally, any other code rather than, like, if I can avoid an additional library, I will do it. For the mapping, I don't need to use external third-party library, because in many industries, possibly adding one library will generate big work like verification, like licensing, and these stuff. So if you don't need it, you shouldn't use it. So now I'm going to create a service called account service by Control Shift A and call it account service, and going to create one more, which is the interface I account service, so we can inject it, use the dependency injection. So this is the interface. The interface is going to include some methods, let's say task of okay, here we need to create one class called operation result. This operation result is to avoid returning the null and provide the ability to return data plus error message. So if any error happened in the repository layers, if we are talking about layered architecture, and if any error happened in the repository method, it can be bubbled through the operation result message to the service layer. The service layer is going to return it to the controller, and accordingly the response can be done. And it also helps us in controlling the flow of the program. We will see that. So initially, let's create it. So this is created now. I'm going to say operation result. Oh no, sorry, it's operation. So operation result, and I call it add account async. So the general practice, if any method is asynchronous method, we need to add the async. This is, however, in the latest coding standards, because it became like a standard, like everyone is using the asynchronous programming. So sometimes you don't need to put it, but to put it is better to explain when you have APIs. So when the IntelliSense can show you the async version, so you recognize that this is an async method. So the add account method will accept the add account request. Sorry, this is the first one. The second one is the add many. We said right. It should be add accounts or add many. Let's see what we named it. Add many accounts. Add many accounts async. Sorry, just need to have request. Just need to have request. And same thing for the update. 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 And update. What else we have? We have the get one, which is get all, delete. So let's copy them all here like this, just for the sake of time. Bring them here. We remove Control C, Control H, and we remove all these. We say in the current document. So in the current document, all these are removed. We are going to remove all these stuff as well. Perfect. So here we have this one, like this, like this, like this, like this. Control X, removing the whole line for your information. And we need to add the async keyword to the end of the, oh, there we have mistake. This is by code async. This typo is bad, so we are going to correct it also in the, okay. So let's correct it here. So some by code, this one. Okay, perfect. So now the account service is going to implement this method. How I got this one? You are here, you press Control and dot, or this one, yellow, I believe. I'm not sure. No, sorry, this, no. Well, I just keep use the Control dot, so I don't know really. Anyways, implement interface. So now we implemented the interface. Just temporarily, it's saying thrown, not implemented, but we are going to implement them one by one. We go to the controller. So now, because the service is there, now the controller is going to depend on the service. So we can inject the service here, which we call it account service, and we call it service or account service. It is up to you, because this controller is going to deal only with one service, so you don't need possibly to name it account service. If there would be another services, possibly you need to make the names account service. It's up to you actually. So here you say control dot, and you say create and assign. No, sorry, not property. It should be read only field. Yes. So you come to this one, best practice to put underscore, and this is here underscore. Generally we do like this as well. If it is nil, then throw new argument, null exception of name of the logger. This is for the logger. So yeah, so this is for this one, and this is for this one. There is one additional not needed, and this is not for the logger, it's for the service. Perfect. So here we can use the logger dot log information name. Let's say it like this. It's interpolation. name of the controller, account controller. So this is to track the sequence and the errors. It can be using the debug. You can log info, you can log debug, and so on. You know that, I assume. Name of the method now. And we say has been called. Okay, so this is describing actually the accounts controller dot add account has been called. So the reader of the log understand that this is going to be happening. We can include the request details here and so on, but that will be, you see, like it's exposing the risk of the data for nothing. It's okay with the chart of accounts, but when there is some sensitive user data or sensitive like commercial data and so on, it shouldn't be exposed like this. This is going to be repeated in the other methods as well. It's the first thing to be called with the specific name, and yeah, let's do it. So complete them one by one. It actually also can be used like we can use like a decorator design pattern to, or maybe different ways to log this one. But at the moment we don't go in the details design pattern, so everyone watch this video can understand it easily without diving in design patterns. Because, well, it is not easy to implement the decorator design pattern. This is the reason. Otherwise, like I can't use it, I can do it now, but it will take like 10 minutes more implementation time and so on. So we just don't need it at the moment. In the future, we can enhance the code and do it. Okay, so that's perfect. Now, if you see here in the output, where is the output? This is the output. It should give us some logs if we call one of the methods. So I'm going to call any one of these, for example, like the get method, get all methods, get all. Yes, this is the get. I'm going to call it, and let's see if it will show as here. Okay, it's saying yes, because the reason that we have okay, now listening to this one, application started, code ERP couldn't resolve the iAccount service. There is implementation for the service, and we injected it before we uh, register it. This is good to see now. How to register it? We go there to program.cs, and let's say here registering the services. Later possibly we can put them in an extension method. So initially we can do like this: builder dot services dot add scoped I account service and account service. So the lifetime is scoped. So now if I run again, it shouldn't give me the same problem. So get accounts, try, execute, and yeah, as you can see, account controller information account controller dot get all accounts has been called. So if well, it is now saying like all these details and so on, but when you like to implement some structured logging and so on, this will have big benefits with the time and date and so on. So yeah, let's continue now. So I'm going again to the controller. So here we are going to implement some try catch, try then tab. It will give you this exception. Generally, it's not good practice to catch the general exceptions unless it is in the controller, which is the most upper layer. So the best thing is generally in the other layers to catch like SQL exception, like socket exception, or whatever exception, argument null exception, and so on. But in the if none of them has been catched in the layers in the low layers of the implementation, so it's good practice to catch it here and handle it here. So with any exception happening, what we are going to return status code of 500 status codes dot 500 some server error happened, try again later, for example. Or we can say contact the administrator and so on. So this is going to be repeated in each one. So here we can also, like this is the request, we are going to pass this request to the service. So we already injected the service. We say service, we say var operation result or result equal to await service. Why await? Because it is already asynchronous method. Wait service dot add account async with the request. We're just going to pass the request. Before that, we should possibly need to validate this request. We are going to see this validation in the next stage. We can validate this. We can encapsulate the validation inside the record by creating possibly a validation attribute or something like this. We will see that in the next possibly minutes or hours. So operation result, this is going to be replicated again in the other ones. Again, this replication, we can avoid it by a decorator pattern or something, but or base class, base controller, custom based controller class, and so on. But for now, we don't need this one because this is going to be refactored. We are going to refactor all these stuff again, yeah, for better performance and so on. For now, we just need to understand what's happening. So here, this will be accounts dot add many accounts, I believe. Many accounts, and what's saying request is null. Okay, so let's come here. Let's see, nullable. Let's see if that solves as, or we need to find some other solution for that. Request is null. Argument cannot convert accounts request to account. Oh, sorry, we have some different mistake here. The mistake is this should be account, not account. And we need to update this in the interface as well. Actually, it's here. Implemented well. Oh, sorry, it's not the interface. F12, we come to the interface, we say F12, and we update this one here. So now we don't have error. Perfect. So in the controller, this is also solve the problem. Update account. Here you notice that we got some similarities, so possibly we can define one constant. We call it status 500 or internal server error custom message, and this is going to be defined here at the beginning. Private constant string and internal server error custom message equal to this one. Sorry. Equal to this one. We're gonna copy this one and we put it, we replaced with this one just for a cleaner code. Internal server error custom message. Yeah. So same thing for this one. This is going to be like this. This is going to be update account async of request, and this is the response. It's gonna be update many. Update many. Again, I think we have the same error problem there. So we're gonna check it. Control F12 taking you to the implementation. So you can update in the implementation, while the F12 alone here, F12 taking you to the interface. Perfect. So we have the get all accounts. It doesn't have any request. It returning okay. Be by code async. Is it difference? Yeah. No. Let's see. Code get account by code async and it accept code. Perfect. And this is by type. So it should accept the type. Here the type. Type by type. Perfect. Copying this one. This is by prefix and prefix. This is here as well. So this is the delete. Last one is delete menu by prefix. This is the code. Perfect. So the delete response also actually not okay. It should be possibly like I forgot the name. I think it should be received or something like this. What's called? It has some name like received, taken, or let me see. It should be 200 accepted. It should be accepted. Anyways, we will see that. And okay, also valid response actually. So now we got already the service done. We are going to create the repository layer now. So the repository I'm going to for the sake of time, I'm going to copy both of these because they are almost the same method naming. So I will call this one the repository. Now possibly you are going to think why we are not going to use one generic repository here. The generic repository here is not going to be good idea for the future work because we are going to work on microservices in the future. So when you divide them, they will all be possibly dependent on the generic repository, and we are going to complicate the generic repository to match everything. So it's better to make the repositories domain specific, so later it's the process of converting this solution to microservices become much easier. So all these are going to be the same, but they are not going to be requests because the repository never deal with the requests. We are going to create a model. This model is going to be like this. We call it account possibly. The account model. The fields are going to be the same fields, but we are going to use class this time. Public class, so prop, so string, it's called account ID, one of them, right? and the other one's like this. So public this one, okay, this one, and this one. Oh, sorry, there's duplication. Okay, this is like this, and this is like this. Perfect. So here we are possibly going to make some enum. What we call the enum and where we call it, let's see. So here in the accounting, in the commons should be good. So we can add something called enums, and Control Shift A. We call it account type. This account type going to be enum, and we are going to convert the text to tiny integer so we can insert it in the database. So the API is going to deal with assets, liabilities, equity, revenue, and expenses wording, while the database is going to deal with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So here assets equal to 1, liabilities equal to 2, equity equal to 3, revenue or income statement accounts 4, expenses 5. So this is our type, is going to be in our, yeah, perfect, that should be good. So this one possibly we can put it also under the result, something we call result, and we move this one here. Perfect. So perfect. So here we are going to use account, add content, add many. The many is going to be processed in the service, while the repository will insert each one separately. Now you possibly ask why we don't send like query with multiple insertion as a batch. I'm going to tell you the reason. The reason is that we are using native SQL at the moment, generating SQL statement with batch like the one we used here. Like this one is going to lead us to building the string. Building the string like this can generate the risk of SQL injection. In the future, if we pass to like something like Dapper ORM or possibly entity framework and so on, that could be in batch. But for the moment, we are not going to do it many. We are going to loop through the many ones and insert them one by one. Update account, again update account many, there is no. Get all accounts is okay, these are all get, so there is no problem, and delete many will also not be here. So this is going to be our account repository, and we are going to rename it here. So this is going to be renamed. Perfect. This is going to be again account repository, and this is going to be called account repository, I account, and we can rename it now. So what is this doing? We are going to implement these methods. We delete this one and we implement the interface. So we have the interfaces now already implemented and all is good. So we can call it now and inject it in the repository layer. So in the service layer, how we do that? We come here and we create a constructor, ctor tab. It will generate it for us. First thing we do, always adding the logger, ilogger of the service, and we call it logger, and we generate the field for the logger, and then I accounts repository. And because we have only one repository here, but generally we will have, if we have like in the commercial, if just imagine this is as invoicing, and the invoicing is calling the repository of the invoices and the repository of the account, if that would be the design. In this case, we need to name this in better naming, like accounts repository and invoices repository, and so on. But at the moment, we don't need that. So this is going to be like this, and this is going to be like generate the field. Again, best practice, as long as they are private, we put underscore, and like this, throw new argument, no exception, name of logger. Oh, sorry, it was already suggested, but yeah, anyways, can do it like this, bring this like this, we call this one like this. So here again we implement try catch. So here we don't catch the general exceptions, because if something we can handle it, we should handle it by its by its source, not bubbling it up. But if the general exception should be handled in the last layer. Now you ask what we are going to handle here. For example, if just imagine. Well, look. First of all, let's agree on that there is defensive programming and there is exception for the exception handling. If you know that you are going to have some potential problem here, you should be defensive more than handling the exception. For example, if now we are going to validate, if request is equal to null, which one is better? Is it throw new argument, null exception, and name of parameter, which is request, and then you come here and you say if it is null argument, null exception, then you don't rethrow it, you return some error, right? Like you return the error. We are going to see how we can add this error to operation result and so on. But for the moment, what I want to say, if you know that this is going to be handled here to return error, why you just don't do that and simply you return the error here? And you will not need for this handling, right? You can handle the other. So it's named exception. That means it's really the things that you cannot guess it. They are going to be exception and you handle them, right? So I would say in this area, possibly we don't need this at the moment at least, but let's keep it as a template, like exception. And then we are, at the moment, we are going just to bubble it and yeah. But generally, we should be defensive more than working on handling exceptions. So now there is a need really to return the uh, object result, because at this moment we are not going to return. So we need to return object result because it is not static. We need to create a new one. But yeah, I think we should at this moment start thinking of creating the details of the operation result. Anyways, let's see how we can do that. This is also returning a new operation result, but with error. We will see that later. So at the moment, we just put these like this. We don't go in details, and we are going to come to the details of each one of these. Oh, sorry. Why this is returning action result? No, it should be operation result. These are all operation results. Sorry for that. Oh. Action result is not the responsibility of service. It's the responsibility of the controller. So because we copy and paste generally the stuff, it brought us to this error. So this is saying tab, tab, and tab. Perfect. So Control F12, you go to the implementation. We can see here that there is a request here, return a new operation result. Here we need to make this async. This is async. This is async. 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 Sorry, I'm going fast, but you see, like, I know very well that you can stop and play the video whenever you like and see what I'm doing. So here there is code. This is code. Anyways, what we are doing now is just template, copy paste, not the real logic. When we come to something with real logic, I'm going to be focused more on that. Okay, perfect. So this is going to be a request. This is going to be request. This doesn't have anything to validate. This doesn't have anything to validate. Oh, sorry, this is type. Type. And this is prefix. And yeah, good. So now we have the repository also created and we could inject it. We need now to see how we call it. So here the request, if the request is null, it's going to return operation result with error. We will see now how it is going. But if this request is validated, what we are going to do again, we save the operation result of the insert, or let's say, yes, the insert in the repository layer equal to repository dot add account async of what? Of the mapped item of the request. So how we are going to do that? Possibly we are going to create something called mapper, or we can put it here as well, but just because it's going to be reused, so let me create something called mapping or mapper mapping, and in the mapping calling it mapper, and this mapper we can make it extension method. So public static class mapper, we call it public static it's returning account because we are going to map the request to account. So the return type is account to model, let's say, and it will accept add account request, which is the request, and it will return, oh, so sorry, this is because this keyword is going to make it extension method. So I extend the request to process it and return account. So it's going to be new account, and this account is going to be so the account ID. Do we need to create the GUID here? I'm not sure. This is possibly later we can see it. The mapper shouldn't do some other work. The mapper should work only on the mapping, I believe. So account code should be the request.account code. Account name should be the request of account name. The account type should be the conversion of account type, and this will need as to cast it first and so on. Yeah, so possibly we should first parse it. Let's see. First, let's parse it, and we can say enum dot parse, because this is going to be string. So we are going to say parse. So it's the type, it needs the type, so we say type of type, oh sorry, type of account type. So I'm going to parse it's suggested already. So I'm going to parse this one to enum, but that will not be enough. I believe we need to cast it as well. Type, no, not type. What was the account type? Account type. Perfect. So that solved the issue, but we have some error expected. Oh, sorry. We shouldn't put this one. So this is going to generate as the mapped item. And if this is very confusing, what's happening, we are parsing it to enum, and then we cast that enum so it can be understood by this one. We can do something like this as well. We can extract a method, control dot extract method, and just to simplify the code, and we call it account type. So this is going to be called like this, and we can also short the format of this one, control dot use express body, it says, and now this is going to be returning this one. So this is the mapper. I come back here, I say first take the request and map it to model, and now should be accepted. Perfect. So now it is accepted. So it's now accepted. We are going to do this one here as well, but the implementation of this one first need to be for each account, because we are going to add many accounts. For each account in the request, accounts, and this is going to be account to model. Okay, and possibly here we can define a list of string for the codes that's failed. We call them failure codes, or failed to be added codes, equal to new. This is a keyword used in the modern C#. At the same time, also we can use it here as well. So we don't need to use the old style while we have option to use the new one. So here this is new, and here in case of any failure, so if here we are going to check the operation results. If failure, then add the code to this one, right? So I think now we are okay, but we need to think about the result one, the common result. So let's define this one. First of all, we need to know that this is going to return either success or failure. in case of the failure, we need to return some message about the failure. It's good also to have some error codes, like we can define some static class for the error codes, or we can return it as a text. It's up to you at the moment, but in the future we need to enhance it to the best possible thing and more readability and maintenance. A part of that, there is another flavor of this operation result we are going to generate, which is when the result is including data. Like when you say get all account, the operation result should be successful, but also including the data that is retrieved by the database. So this is what we are going to create now and see how we can uh, do it. So first of all, let's start with the ones I told you, like if it is success or not. So let's call them uh, public bool success or is success. The naming for the boolean should be is success or is successful. It's also still okay. So here is get and set, and this is if successful. What if it is failure? Then it should be a string message, string. It's called error message possibly. That should be good naming. Now we are going to create the constructor. The constructor is going to be like this. So because we are going to fill this information when returning, saying like return like is success this is the true, and error message is null. This is the successful scenario, while the failure scenario is going to be return this is false and generate some message like the exception message possibly, for example. Okay, so our constructor should be like this. So let's do it now, and this is the message. This is the message. Yeah, so let's see if we can create it from here at parameter generate cons. Oh, perfect. So it's saying already that you can generate it. Perfect. So let's go there. It's already generated. We don't need these ones. In fact, we can do this as well because it is private set. So actually this one is equal to this one. So this means it is a private set. This is the same thing, private set. So let's do it just like suggested by the. So this is our constructor. Yeah. This dot. Okay. Private set. Private set. Saying remove it. Doesn't contain definition for a success. Hmm, I think this keyword doesn't work. Success. Oh, perfect. Yeah. What? It's the typo. It's typo. Okay, perfect. Now, and this is not message. This is error message. Okay. Or we simply make it error. Yeah. So mainly now we have this one. So is success is true, and this is success false, and this is not the mess. Yeah, it's message and so on. But it's still better to enhance it more and make it shorter and static. So we can possibly return something like okay, or not is success but success, like public static uh, operation result. Oh, it's already like suggested. No, we can't do that. We can do it like this. Is success returning return new. The success, as we said, is returning uh, is success. Sorry, this is this method because of that. Yeah, is success true, and the message is null or default, right? And when it's failure, it's returning failure, and this should be false, and this should be, in this case there should be string and message, right? And this should be the error message. Well, let's see it, error message, better description. Okay, so now what's happening now, we don't need to do it like this, new. We can just say dot failure with the message exception. Oh, sorry. Oh no, this is the success. The success is here, and that's all. And this is the failure operation result dot failure, and with the error message. And look, here is the benefit I will show you when the defensive programming. So if you know that is null, what you need to do, you say here operation result name of request cannot be null. And because we already called the method here, the logger method log information, and we can copy it from the controller as well, which I don't know where it is now. Let me copy this method from here, go to the service, and paste it here. So here the logger saying that is called, okay, sorry, that this is to control the flow. Anyways, we need also to copy this to all methods. So here we are returning the error. So the controller here, the controller can here check saying, sorry, let me check, where is it? So this is the method. Who is calling this method? The references. Let's see the references in the controller. This is calling it in the controller. So this method is going to check. It's saying if operation result dot is success, simply return okay or created, depend on what we are going to implement. Else, that means this error. So return, which is with failure, but also we can do it like this. Else, what is the else? Which is operation result dot not is success, is failure, not is success, not. So we add the not here. Yeah. Or we can simply return it here like status code gain 500 account hasn't been added. There is something wrong here, we can say. Okay. Account has not been added. And the general one of the general message as well. So yeah, perfect. It's a little bit long, so we can put it like this. So what I would like to say now again, that the operation result method is going to help us in controlling the flow of the program and provide the bubbling in the right way. Yeah. So now let's make the other flavor where we have data to return. So we are going to copy and paste this one. Yeah. But this time with generic, and we are going to inherit from operation result. The reason for that, now we will be able also to return, this is without data, this is just returning the error message and is successful or not. But if we would like to include some data, like the content of the data, we need to use this one, which is returning the data or the details, you name it. It will not have error because already the error is from the inherited from the base class. So here we are going to have the data that we are going to include, and it's going to use the base for the is success and for the message, while going to fill the data from this one, right? Good. So here we're gonna have another flavor of this one with T data, and this is going to work on this one, and need, because the success, it need to include data as well, T data. Am I right? Okay, so something wrong. What's wrong here? Oh, sorry, why I put them? Oh, that wasn't what's saying here. Next code unit cannot convert null to non-nullable reference. Let's make it string. Anyways, we don't need to use it. Yeah, with the failure, again we are going to use this flavor, but this time we don't need to make big changes. Okay, and this is going to include null for the data defaults. Yeah, so now we have two flavors: flavor when you don't have data to return, and flavor for the when you have data to return. So we are ready now to work on the other scenarios, which is the get and so on. Okay, so these operation result return, oh, all these. Okay, this cannot be null. Okay, so I'm not going to implement this because the video became long, and I'm going to implement one endpoint at the moment and later going to complete them one by one. So these are all to do for the next video, because now we are closing like 2 hours or more, not sure. So let's see the saying no implementation, I believe.